at Ashbrooke Cricket and Rugby Football Ground, and once upon a time this would have been the football ground of Sunderland. It was our third ground. We actually started off in 1879, a mile or two from here down in Hendon at the Blue House Field. After that we were looking for another ground, and we spent a bit of time hunting around for another ground and played 2 or 3 games at 2 or 3 different grounds, all around the Cedars, where now, if people know the area, around about where the Victoria Gardens pub is. And I've actually got a blue plaque up there sort of specifying this was where Sunderland briefly played, but let's not kid anybody, that was a proper football ground. It was just basically a roped off field. And then we found this place at Ashbrooke. It was before Ashbrooke Cricket Ground came here. It was when it was known as Groves Field, and we played here in 1883, 1884. There were only 4 games that we know of that were played here. But the one that stands out was a game against Stanley Star in the Northumberland and Durham Challenge Cup. And the reason that stands out is Sunderland won the game 12-1. Now, the official record victory of the club was from 1895, an FA Cup game against a team called Fairfield, where we won 11-1. And that does stand quite correctly as the club's record score, because that game, being an FA Cup game, was a national cup competition. But nonetheless, a competitive game with a higher score recorded on this ground than any other competitive score we've ever managed. So for that reason alone, Ashbrooke has a significance in Sunderland's history, that and the fact it was the last of the grounds on the south side of the river. You can see the new Sunderland kit on display today, and you can see the front of it at least is very thin red and white stripes, much thinner than people have been used to in recent years. But way back when we first had red and white stripes, the stripes were thinner than we've been used to in the last few years of the Stadium of Light. However, when we played at Ashbrooke, Sunderland were yet to play in red and white at all, let alone red and white stripes. We started off, as I mentioned, at our first ground, the Blue House Field, and in those days we wore blue tops and we wore blue shorts, or knickerbockers as they would have been called, and those knickerbockers had a white stripe down the side. And it wasn't until we went to the Newcastle Road ground that we first wore red and white stripes. And so, having played at 8 grounds in total, it's only the last 3, Newcastle Road, Roker Park, and of course the Stadium of Light, that Sunderland have worn red and white stripes. One of the mysteries of this ground is where exactly the football pitch was at the time. Now, we've marked out a football pitch, of course, for today's game. Together with a good friend of mine, Keith Gregson, who is the historian here at Ashbrooke, in the past we've done quite a bit of research in trying to locate exactly which part of this land the football pitch was on back in the 1880s, and we've been unable to completely establish that. However, for what it's worth, my hunch is that the football pitch was actually here just behind me, where the rugby field now is. And that is, my reason for thinking that is, the ground was known as Groves Field, and just adjacent to this part of the ground there's a street that is actually called the Grove that was here at the time. So I have got this feeling that the football pitch was actually down at this end of the ground, but it remains a mystery until somebody somewhere unearths some record, and we have looked in the land registration records for County Durham at the time. This, of course, being County Durham in the 1880s, it wasn't until 1974 that Tyne and Weir were created. We've been unable to ascertain for 100% definite which bit the football pitch was, but I think it was where we're playing today.